Hi there, and welcome back to Season 3 of Cyburst, a podcast about science, popular culture, and entertainment. This podcast is for everyone, no matter if you're a conservationist, an athlete, or an accountant. We are your hosts, Isabel
and Ella, two science communicators and solarpunk enthusiasts, taking this podcast on a journey into hopeful futures. In today's episode, we are talking all about Pokemon again and asking a question of, is Pokemon one of the strongest visions for a solarpunk society that we have? Or is it just capitalism dressed up to look like utopia? But before we dive into it, it's really important that we acknowledge that this episode of Cyburst is being recorded on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. Daura Nuna, Daura Ngunnawal, Yungu, Nalimanyin, Dunimanyin, Ngunnawal Wari, Dawa Wari, Dindi, Wangirilijin Yin. This is Ngunnawal country. Today, we are all meeting together on Ngunnawal country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders. And that includes extending these respects to all the elders of the traditional lands on which you are currently listening to this episode on.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Ella. Okay, we're doing another Pokemon episode.
It's like my dream come true.
I'm letting Ella do another Pokemon episode.
Okay, letting. Isabel suggested this one to be recorded now. I did suggest it initially.
Yes.
But I'm so excited. We're talking about two of our favorite things on the podcast. Pokemon, which kicked it all off for us at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And Solarpunk, which has been this beautiful thing we keep returning to episode after episode until we finally have a season dedicated all to it. So to record the two of them together.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's great. So we did actually talk a little bit about Solarpunk in our first Pokemon episode, which is our very first Cyburst episode ever. So that's a cool full circle moment that we're having here.
Nostalgia is so sweet.
And those of you who haven't listened to that episode, now is the time to do that.
Or after this episode.
Or afterwards, yeah. It works either way, actually. And today we're going to expand on those Solarpunk elements, explore it a bit more. And in true Cyburst style, we're splitting this episode into 3 sections. So the first one, we're going to be talking about the Solarpunk elements of Pokemon. Then in the second part, we're going to move into the not so Solarpunk elements of Pokemon. Yes. Did I say Pokemon for the first one? I don't know.
I trust it. I think you're great.
And the third part, we're going to talk about the future of Solarpunk in Pokemon.
Oh, there's so much potential.
Yes. And then, of course, we'll end on our good news bits. But to kick us off, let's start talking about the Solarpunk elements of Pokemon.
Yes.
Yeah. So the biggest and most obvious overarching Solarpunk element of Pokemon is the harmony with nature theme.
It's really inescapable. And I think even if you've only consumed one part of Pokemon media, because, you know, as we discussed in episode 1, they've got books, TV shows, games.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you interact with any of those, it's pretty clear that harmony with nature is the number one theme.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And so within that, there's lots of things that Pokemon does to explore this theme. The first thing I wanted to touch on is the wildlife protection zones, which I think you might have actually mentioned in our first Pokemon episode too. So with the wildlife protection zones in Pokemon, only a few trainers are allowed in at a time, and the Pokemon inside are actually really well looked after. So conservation is for sure a priority in the Pokemon world, and urban sprawl is very well maintained in most regions too.
Yeah, so we're really seeing that harmony element.
Yeah.
And in researching for this podcast episode, I came across this narration to the pre-credit sequence in the movie Pokémon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. And the narration says, mankind and Pokemon alike have long journeyed together to experience the thrill and the challenge of the Pokemon battle, living and learning together as teammates. Sometimes opponents, yes, but ever friends. Yet there are those who blindly take advantage of a Pokemon's trust to further their own selfish, egotistical ambitions in the name of darkness. But as the pendulum swings both ways, there are the Pokémon Rangers as well, whose job it is to protect Pokemon and protect nature, reflecting the balance that is nature. And that narration element really makes me think of this conservation being such a theme. And even though some of the dramatized aspects are, you know, there's a threat to the conservation, Pokemon's kind of offering that solution as well, saying that there may be these threats and in the names of darkness, a bit dramatic, but saying that the Pokemon Rangers are there for that. Like it's thought out that they're there not only to conserve, but to continue to do that. It's not a one and done thing. It's ongoing.
Yeah. And so is that narration at the very start of the movie?
Yeah. Although now I said that it's a movie, I'm not actually sure if it's a game.
No, I think it's a movie because you put that it's a director.
Yeah, but the directors, the games have directors as well.
Oh,
and I've got other quotes in that further on. Should have done a bit more research, hey. But
I think that's really cool if it is at the start too, because then it's setting the scene, right? It's saying, hey, this is like a really important aspect of the Pokemon world. Yeah,
to have it as pre-credits, you know, they want to put that at the forefront of you enjoying that piece of media.
Yeah.
There's another quote as well that I was researching, and this is from a Pokemon, Arceus in the Jewel of Life. And the Pokemon says, restoration to land of Machina, which is a result of your ancestors dedicating their entire lives to cultivating and restoring this land. This place was brought back to life by the efforts of people and Pokemon alike. And I thought that's a really great example of people and Pokemon both not only protecting a place, but bringing it back from the brink of destruction, which I think is a very Solarpunk element. You know, Solarpunk is a lot of the times about working with what we have, and if what we have is a destroyed landscape, let's turn that around. So in that conservationist way, I can really see it combining with Solarpunk in that way.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about harmony, we're talking about nature. Let's talk about the strong bonds and friendship between humans and creatures in Pokemon. Yeah. So I think this is like a top number one theme of Pokemon. If you are interacting with any of the media, you're going to see these really strong relationships between humans and Pokemon or pocket monsters.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that's
I know. It's one of my favorite fun facts. It's really interesting. The entire plot of the 5th generation games revolve around this mutual partnership between humans and Pokemon to a higher extent than before. And it's kind of like they got 5 generations into Pokemon the world and said, we really want to reiterate this further. Like, we really want to drive home that you've experienced it every time, but now more than ever, it's really important. And personally, I've never been a strategic Pokemon player.
Right.
Like, I play Pokemon for the fun. I didn't finish my first Pokemon game till last year or this year.
I mean, you know, the extent of my experience in the Pokemon world is literally Pokemon Go for like that 1 year. So
yeah.
Same.
Like, but what I love playing the games, and one of the strategies I did rely on was having a bond with my starter Pokemon. And this in-game, like your friendship level, actually gives you some battle perks. So sometimes, and this happened recently to me, and it actually triggered a bit of an moment because I was battling someone who I shouldn't have, and my Pokemon was really low leveled. But because we were friends, it like held on and had 1 health point left because it didn't want to let me down. And I often also... particularly with my starter Pokemon, who I level up and then I brute force my way through the gyms. I don't do this type matchup. I don't play the game the way that maybe a lot of people do. But they can also give, like, when you're battling, you can get like status conditions like paralysis or burn.
Yeah.
And I'm a strong believer in just letting my Pokemon figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you have a strong friendship bond, sometimes that happens quicker.
Well, look, to be honest, in games in general, I am also more of a brute force person because I cannot be bothered. And I play like a lot of open world type games like The Witcher and that. And I cannot be bothered to like collect all of the potions and level up and stuff. No, I just throw myself into the situation and hope it works out. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then I just lower the difficulty because I'm not.
I love that though. Play the game you want to play it. And I like playing it where me and my Pokemon have really strong bonds, and that defeats everything because we have the power of friendship.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that there are mechanics that allow you to do that and that reinforce that friendship.
Which is very Solarpunk.
It is very Solarpunk. And we also see in canon, in the world of Pokemon, that the best trainers in the league achieve their status of being the best trainers in the league because they have such a strong bond of friendship with their Pokemon. Mm-hmm. So there's so much reinforcement of this ideal that, you know, it's so strong. And community ties, so Solarpunk. Also community ties to not just the human. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And I think it's something that we struggle generally a lot with as humans, is putting ourselves at the top of the ecosystem. And Solarpunk is really about equalizing that. So I love to see it.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, it's such a wholesome theme of Pokemon, isn't it?
But moving from, you know, community to the the solar aspect of Solarpunk.
Yes.
Tell me about that, Isabel.
Yeah, so the Pokemon world is mainly clean energy, not entirely reliant on fossil fuels. I think like fossil fuels appear, but very rarely is my understanding.
Yeah, so sometimes there'll be like an abandoned mine, like that's pretty common.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and this is apparently true of Pokemon Sun and Moon in particular.
I haven't played those ones.
Okay,
they're like the only ones.
Okay, well,
I never had 3D
we're on the same page here for this one, but in Sun and Moon, urban communities are fueled by renewables and surrounded by parks and shires and wildlife, which is really great. And in general, in the Pokemon world, solar and wind energy are used in many places.
Yes.
So, for example, one of the regions is the Valley Windworks, which is close to one of the mountains, and it's a massive wind farm that's on mountain. And there's also an abundance of solar panels in places like Sunnyshore's City, which I discovered reading the Pokemon Wikipedia, also known as Bulbapedia.
I love Bulbapedia.
Has a really interesting story behind it.
Okay, tell me the story.
So basically in this city, to make up for lack of space, they decided to build solar panels to use for power and roads. And there are suspended roads throughout the city that collect the solar energy to power the region. And the gym in particular has a bunch of exposed machines that use up a lot of electrical power, which also prompted the town to renovate the pathways into solar energy collectors. So there was a real emphasis on, okay, we require a lot of energy, so how do we do it in a sustainable, healthy way that's going to benefit the community? And also the city actually used to be dominated by Pokemon poachers and criminal gangs until it was transformed by the current gym leader.
So like purposefully transformed.
Yes.
And that's really exciting because I think that has a lot of Solarpunk energy.
It does
to it. And while I love like how much of a mainstay it is for that storyline, obviously the city, like Sunnyshore's, that's a pretty good name.
Well, yeah.
But what I also love about the Pokemon universe is that sometimes the renewable energy is just in the background. And one of the things that prompted this as an initial even topic for us was I had watched a Pokemon movie back with episode 1, season 1, and I could just see like all of this renewable energy sources in the background of the town, essentially, kind of like as a backdrop, as world building, and for it to be there explained and unexplained is really cool. Like it's not just a gimmick for that game. It actually is it perpetuates quite a lot through a lot of Pokemon media,
Yeah.
which I really love.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump while we're talking about sustainable energy
Yeah.
and talk about the Pokemon Rotom.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of this Pokemon, Isabel?
No.
Let me describe him
I know
for
like
you.
3 Pokemon, so.
Rotom is this little orange kind of like almost light bulb shaped Pokemon.
Okay.
And it has little blue wings and it's plasma.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a plasma Pokemon. Its body's plasma, but it's an electric ghost type Pokemon who has the ability to possess the motors of certain appliances in the household.
Oh my God.
So this Pokemon in itself is kind of a renewable energy source.
Yeah.
Is it sustainable power? Question mark. I've been thinking a lot about Rotom, and the more I think about it, the more I have questions.
It's like renewable energy, but as a ghost.
Yeah. It's like, let me literally possess and inhabit your phone, your fridge, your lawnmower. So like sometimes in the game, you'll see it like a Rotom, or you'll be given a Rotom that'll jump into your technology. But oftentimes they're just to like jumping in and powering a fridge because they can. And
Because they feel like it.
well, there are a few explanations in world for this.
Okay.
One of them is that it inhabits electronics with the intent of helping others, like it really wants to provide.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is that it does it to cause mischief. And both of those, I think, are equally valid.
Yeah.
I do have questions about like how the Rotom first learned that they could jump into household appliances, because I presume like the fridge isn't made for a Rotom to jump in and power it. I think a Rotom saw a fridge and thought, let me get into that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe they made more specific Rotom compatible appliances.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going too deep. I don't know. But also, I feel like the Pokemon universe is asking for it because apparently there's a storyline where one Rotom literally time travels.
Wow. Okay. Do you know the reason for that?
No. And I feel like if I look, I will only have more questions and less answers. But I just thought that was really interesting. Like, that's a
Yeah.
form of power we don't normally think about.
Yeah. And it time travels because it can do the possession. Like, okay, no, I don't think I'm helping either.
I think we just need to let it be a marvel. However, this might be a point that we come back to later, is how much things are thought out in the Pokemon universe, and is that helpful? When does that start taking away from the world building?
Mm-hmm.
But jumping back into world building, talking about clean energy.
Yes.
Let's talk about how most people walk or bike everywhere in
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
So you may have seen there's very few cars, lots of bike and walking trails that connect the cities.
Mm-hmm.
So when you play in game, you'll often start walking and then you might get a bicycle later on, and then you can bike between cities. And then maybe you'll have a Pokemon that learns to fly and it can fly you between cities, or sometimes newer games have like a Pokemon taxi service where like specific Pokemon will fly you to another place because it's their Pokemon job. So that's interesting. But specifically going back to the walkable bit, I thought, how nice is this? And it really references episode 3 of this season.
Oh, yes, it does
where
too.
we're talking about community, third places, and how good walkable cities are for people.
Yeah.
So as we spoke about, they're really good for personal health. They're really good for community connection.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're very sustainable. And it also means the towns kind of have a sustainable footprint, not only in them, but between them as well.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder if this is also another reason why people love Pokemon so much, because we talked about some of the reasons in our first Pokemon episode. I don't think this was one of them, and we did discuss how people crave walkable communities in our third places episode. So that actually makes sense. Yeah, another reason to love Pokemon.
Another reason to love Pokemon. And I don't know how much of a purposeful mechanic that was initially, and then it became standard. But a very purposeful mechanic that was put in the games was kind of a reference to sustainable food harvesting.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, Isabel, if you've heard about berries in the Pokemon universe.
I feel like briefly, but I think I could also be confusing that with some farming games.
That's so fine and fair. So like in universe, berries you can like give to your Pokemon. Some of them heal the status conditions that I said that I never healed. Some of them give you like extra fun boosts in those ways. And unlike, you know, a potion that you might buy at a mart, the berries you kind of find around the town. And in Generation 3, there was a berry planting mechanic. And basically this taught people that you can't just take and take and take. The world will stop giving.
Right.
And normally, or kind of what the mechanic encourages is each time you find a berry, or you normally find them in multiples, is you take one for yourself to use and you plant one for in the future for it to double, essentially.
No, this is ringing a bell. Maybe we did talk about this.
I don't know if we did, but I think it's so cool that it was purposefully put in to be a mechanic to teach children about the balance you need to uphold with nature.
Yeah, and it is reminding me of a mechanic in a survival game I've played.
Yeah.
To Don't Starve, it's called. It's really hard.
I feel like you've told me that this is scary.
Elements of it are. Yeah, and I might have talked about this before too, how if you cut down too many trees without also planting, then one of the trees will come alive and start to like attack you. So you have to make sure that you're balancing out how much you're cutting.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very realistic, teaches good lessons.
Yeah, I mean, that Don't Starve is not Solarpunk at all, but it does have that interesting.
It can have one element of good. Talking about an element of good, should we talk about the cultural love of science in the Pokemon universe?
Yeah, I remember when you first told me this and you showed me like a screenshot of one of the games you were playing, and this like character was like, science is so cool, or like something of the sort.
And that's not just a one-off, that repeats a lot. There's even dialogue throughout the games. But kind of the whole science is amazing is really embedded in particularly the gameplay, which I would say is the main feature of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's really cool how, you know, you start off and you're a young character, but scientists want to interact with you. They want you to be part of their science or sometimes citizen science project. They say, can you help me? They give you information. They're often named after trees, such as Professor Oak. Also interesting that the main protagonist, canonically, his name is Ash. There's definitely like a nature and natural vibe going on there.
Yeah.
And I saw you made a note here about science coexisting with respect for tradition and spirituality.
Yeah.
And I think this is very Solarpunk. And I think this is Solarpunk in a way that we have not achieved in our current, particularly Western realities and spheres of thought, particularly when we're thinking about science, is we're not combining it with anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think though Solarpunk isn't necessarily about science, at the same time, it's almost inseparable from the solar, which is the sustainable technology kind of genre description there. And when I imagine Solarpunk, it's more of a mataranga, which is a Maori word for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, skill.
Yeah.
It's sometimes used in the plural. And this notion, this concept kind of describes a more holistic understanding of the world that can be woven with Western science to provide what can be described as the best coverage of what we know about the world.
Yeah.
And this is from a science communicator, Dr. Dan Hukaroa. And when I first heard him describe that word, it really lit up something within me because I think we need to stop distancing ourselves from traditional knowledge.
Yeah, totally.
In science.
And I wonder if for, like, obviously that's a New Zealand example.
Yeah.
Right? That's a New Zealand example, but I'm thinking of Pokemon is a Japanese game. And I wonder if it's reflecting that sort of the Shintoism as well, combined with science, where it's got the spiritual elements as well, as the scientific elements, how much that has influenced the thinking here, how the world has been created.
Yeah, and I love when we're talking about science is understanding that involves so much more than what's just in the ivory tower. Like, science is so accessible in this Pokemon universe. It's so accessible, you know, through these long-standing cultures as well. And it's really interesting that Pokemon is such like a science-led society that it comes down to the very mechanics that underpin the games and also the whole Pokemon universe.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's really cool because I think it's one of the few games that actually deals with science in that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's like mainstream and deals with science.
Like, Pokemon is so big.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like science.
Yes.
And I think this is why Pokemon is maybe a topic that we keep coming back to in our science and pop culture themed podcast.
Yeah.
Is because it provides a really good collision of science and pop culture.
Yeah.
In every single iteration of it.
Yeah, completely. Moving on to a different theme. In the Pokemon world, and we've kind of hinted at this already, a lot of the towns or areas are small, decentralized communities. So the franchise is very community focused. And I see, Ella, you've put something here from an interview with somebody.
Yeah. So before how I was touching on directors of the games.
Yeah.
This is why I know they're called directors, is because I found this quote and I think this is going to underpin the whole episode for us. So it's a big one.
Okay.
And I apologize for the big quote. But
no, don't worry about it. I've got a huge one later on.
Oh, great. Welcome to Reading with Cyverst. This quote is from the director of Diamond and Pearl, which was the first Pokemon game I ever played. From Junichi Masuda, and this was at April 2009 Nintendo Power magazine quote, where they were kind of exploring a bit more about this world. Here's the quote. Enjoy it. Overall, I wanted to depict an ideal world which was peaceful with no environmental issues or racism. The relationship between human beings and Pokemon characters is much closer than the owner-pet relationship, which is what I envision to be the ideal relationship. I want everyone to feel something when interacting with this world. In Japan, people sometimes don't give up their seats for the elderly on a train. I wanted to show a world of kindness. It's not just about what's good and what's bad. I wanted to show that there are even better ways to act than normal. For instance, the Pokemon Celebi is said to only appear when you help nature to flourish in a forest in the Pokemon world. Another example I've imagined is, despite the normal reputation that electronics like refrigerators and trucks damage the environment or waste energy, these devices would be something closer to nature in the Pokemon world.
Oh, like if that other Pokemon possessed it. What was the name of the
Pokemon? Yeah, Rotom. Yeah, and this description is really powerful for me. Talking about Pokemon as an ideal world, it's peaceful, it's environmental, there's harmony.
It's kind.
It's kind. Kindness is so big in the Pokemon games. Like, how often do strangers hand you gifts and items to help you on their journey?
Oh.
There's this real understanding and kindness in the community between people, but also between people and Pokemon. And I love this description of a more than human pet relationship. It's closer. It's almost, and this is me projecting my ideals onto that quote.
Yeah.
It's like the ideal relationship between the human and the non-human.
Yeah.
And through that, because we can understand the autonomy of the Pokemon much better than we might be able to understand the autonomy of a forest. It's really showing how humans and non-humans can flourish together.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to hear like this underlying motivation and ideas that go into the third generation or the fourth generation of a game.
Yeah. That's really nice. It's very wholesome. And kind of building on these like kind relationships. Another Solarpunk element of Pokemon is the safety.
Yes.
Too. So the Pokemon world is in fact safe for 10-year-old children.
To be waved out the front door by their mums.
Completely. So they can travel around alone with only their pets, and it's common for them to do that.
Yeah, it's not weird.
No,
it would be weird here.
It's totally normalized. Yep. Apparently, according to Pokemon lore, even the most protective parents in the Pokemon world don't worry about letting their small children run around without even checking in at home for several months, as long as they have a Pokemon with them. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Like giving children that independence and autonomy that they don't normally get growing up.
Yeah. And a small point there is that in the Pokemon world, you don't need any passports or documentation to move between regions as long as you have a strong enough Pokemon to take you there. So it seems to be like when you are strong enough and empathetic enough that you have this essentially like kindness and friendship bond with a non-human actor.
Yeah.
That's when you're deemed, I don't want to say like an adult, but it's a rite of passage.
I think that's really cool that if you have like deep empathy, then that is what helps you flourish and gives you like independence and
more of that, please.
Yeah, that's great.
But talking about autonomy of characters, I just wanted to say, how crazy is it? I know this happens in fiction a lot, but in Pokemon specifically, how crazy is it that often we just see one child overthrow huge plots? So they protect Pokemon from injustice. A 12-year-old might stop a dictatorship plot. Might unfold criminal activity because even though Pokemon's safe, there are criminals trying to make it unsafe.
Yeah.
Children can foil the work of the team, Rocket, Plasma, Galactic, etc., or whatever flavor of villain has been cooked up. And we see that the individual action of the player, who's usually aided by the in-game companion, scientist, rival characters. So there's still a team. It's not just a solo journey. We see this individual child, essentially, have direct consequences on the reality and the big picture. And I think that's so empowering. Yeah. Especially when we think about climate change and how often young people don't feel like they have the autonomy to make a difference. Yeah. To see a 12-year-old foil a dictatorship plot, I think is really motivational, and that storyline could potentially be some of the helpful, motivative images of the future that can help get us to that more Solarpunk reality. Yeah, it is for sure reminded me of the whole thing about the 17-year-old girls saving dystopias as well in fiction, but obviously taking it a step further. And in a different direction too, because Pokemon is not inherently a dystopia. So it's exploring that in a very different way. Yeah, and like that's just through the games we're talking about. If you watch the movies, you would not believe how many legendary Pokemon Ash Ketchum interacts with. And a lot of that is, him working with other Pokemon and gets recognized by the legendary or it's actually like quite deep emotional payoff, I would say, rather than like physical activity payoff. Like he gets recognized for maybe saving the forest and meeting Celebi, or for having a really good battle because he had such a connection with his Pokemon. And I think that's really cool, but also like, come on. Like he is canonically so young and he's met like the literal god Pokemon of the world like it's just a regular Tuesday. And he does that very often, and I know it's fiction. But I just... It is funny though when you think about it. Oh man. I mean, yeah, it is good though. Anyway, you can get into lots of scraps if you have healthcare. Yes. Yeah. So another element that is Solarpunk in the Pokemon world is how healthcare works. So there is free healthcare for Pokemon through the Pokemon centers. And my understanding of this is that it's funded through local taxes paid by citizens, and anybody in the universe can take in their injured Pokemon free of charge and judgment. So it's accessible for even the poorest of trainers. Yeah. No matter like what situation you're in, they're going to help you.
And these centers also serve as a place for rest and community. So there are bedrooms, there's food, there's a computer for you to use. And it also acts as a place where people can come together and gather and
Yeah.
meet.
And in terms of a game mechanic, that's the place where you can start communicating with different Pokemon players across the world. Like that's where all the comms base is. It is a third place, may I argue. Mm-hmm. Wow, I want to write an essay about that.
Third place in Pokemon. Oh, that'd be cool, actually.
Oh, wait, Isabel. Another thing for the list. Okay, you touched briefly on local taxes.
Yeah.
I have fallen down a rabbit hole.
Okay, great. We love rabbit holes in Cyberse. We're good at that.
I have fallen down a rabbit hole. I watched a really interesting video by two YouTube creators, one called Almighty Arceus and the other Birdkeeper Toby.
Okay.
Both brilliant usernames.
Yes.
And this deep dive was, what government does Pokemon actually have? Because it's kind of confusing and they maybe unearthed like a conspiracy that maybe isn't a conspiracy because it's like kind of implied.
Okay.
Anyway, from the outset, the government system in Pokemon doesn't look like it's punk. It seems to be a replication of our current systems.
Right.
It has mayors, it has local government, like elections.
Yep.
So it looks like a democracy. Everything's pretty chill, groovy. Peel back a layer. You can see that in Alola region, the Kahunas are the strongest battlers and they're in charge of like the different islands. So the strongest battlers who remember are also the people with the biggest empathy and best friendship bonds with their Pokemon.
Yeah.
They are the ones who lead those areas. So that's an interesting punkification. Like it is not the status quo, so it is therefore punk.
Yeah.
However, let's talk about Pokemon centers a bit more.
Okay.
Pokemon centers are worldwide.
Yep.
They're in every single region, implying that them being free everywhere is a global, in terms of all the Pokemon regions that have been explored so far, it's a global effort by some sort of international government or governments. We also see that throughout the worlds, that everything is priced the same no matter which region you're in. And sometimes that gets updated with newer games, but things are kind of consistently the same price.
Yeah.
But the regions are international regions, kind of essentially. So there's a basically, it has been revealed in Pokemon that there's like a global international police force that has a lot of money and resources, but they're kind of like underground, kind of like low key. I'll put the link to this video somewhere. You should really watch it because it's really interesting and there's a lot more to think about. But this global international police force deals with international, and because it's Pokemon, interdimensional threats.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
So like, is that Solarpunk? Questions. However, in that video, they then go on to talk about how generally Pokemon is a socialist utopia technocracy.
Okay. Big words.
Big words, breaking it down. Socialist, people doing things for each other, community-based, political ecosphere. Utopic, it is very idyllic, it's very futuristic. From our perspective as consumers, it's a positive. So socialist, utopic, technocracy. Technocracy is talking about how technology is at the center of a lot of their world decisions.
Yeah.
So as science progresses, kind of everywhere in the Pokemon world updates to be in line with that. So socialist, utopic, technocracy, not Solarpunk, Solarpunk adjacent.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting, considering I don't think their video spoke at all about Solarpunk, but you can kind of see it ripple through with the language they do use.
Wow, they've really thought deeply about this. That's interesting.
Honestly, a great video.
Yeah.
I regret nothing. It was a great deep dive. It was a great rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think that was an excellent rabbit hole. Very worthwhile.
Yes. And come with me. Jump down it as well. But talking about kind of like that utopic description of Pokemon. I want to talk about futuring in the world of Pokemon. And I think this is another reason why we're giving it kind of that Solarpunk label, or we're trying to weigh up if it deserves that Solarpunk label. So the director of Diamond and Pearl, Matt Suda, said that when he created those games, I was determined to create the ultimate version of all. Creating a fun game is not enough. We will draw the world of tomorrow, the world of the distant future, on a blank paper called Pokemon. An ideal world. Also an ultimate world. So he's literally kind of talking about our future being visualized through Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of its own thing, but it's also a hope for tomorrow.
Yeah. That's really cool. Like, again, they're intentionally thinking about how can we create a world that is better than where we're at the moment.
100%.
And using Pokemon as that sort of experiment, a way to explore those ideas. It's lovely. And I think everything we've talked about in this section all ties into those overarching Solarpunk themes of hope and optimism and resilience, which is lovely. But now...
there's a but.
Yes, there is a but, because, you know, we're good science communicators, which means thinking about all the sides here.
We're not cherry picking this data.
Yes. So to transition, I wanted to quickly touch on an element of Pokemon that's debated whether it's Solarpunk or not before we move into, like, definitely not super Solarpunk elements of Pokemon. So Pokemon want to fight each other, and this is apparently good for their health. Apparently. Allegedly, according to the law, that's, but it's very much debated as to whether this is problematic or not. Because it's like, okay, well, Pokemon are naturally competitive and they're not forced to fight and can leave trainers if they want. But is that competitiveness really a Solarpunk thing, even if they are like that naturally?
Arguably,
then,
no.
Well, I mean, because then at the same time, it's also not abusive and the Pokemon are choosing to fight. I don't know. It's very confusing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because you are more aware of the world.
I was having this discussion last night with my roommates.
Oh, okay.
And I was talking about how I think it's a very slippery slope from don't worry, they like fighting to abuse. And particularly when you have like a whole class of Pokemon whose like type is fighting. Like I don't want to really draw parallels with like racism and slavery. And luckily I don't have to because Pokemon has. So the official reasoning is that Pokemon officially consent and choose to be caught by you. But like I just said, doesn't sit quite right with me. And in the 1997 Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo, who is like a psychic type Pokemon clone from the legendary Pokemon Mew, so human experimentation, all kinds of wrong. Mewtwo sets out to build a new world for itself and the other cloned Pokemon, basically questioning and challenging the fundamental ideologies that inform the franchise ownership and control. So it's a very meta criticism that Pokemon chose to go with for their first movie. And Mewtwo in this movie accuses its fellow Pokemon of being slaves and the Pokemon trainers of being slave traders.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a question at the forefront of Pokemon, the franchise. I feel like they may have jumped first into the world of Pokemon, then realized the implications. And once again, this is like an ongoing theme, which I think makes us really question if it's Solarpunk, because Solarpunk is all about intentions and motivations, and those being true to the positive Solarpunk course. Like you can accidentally Solarpunk, but it's not really Solarpunk because the meaning isn't there. And I think in the world of Pokemon, if you're trying to, they kind of walk the line between like, is it slavery? Let's question it and then leave it there and show that we've done our part. And then sometimes they walk that line. Sometimes they go, just don't think about it. And I think both of them aren't aren't quite enough, which makes me question, is Pokemon Solarpunk? Long-winded answer.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't know where I sit on it either. I feel like I have to engage more with the world before I pick a side on that. But it's definitely not as simple.
Yeah.
Not simple. Okay, but let's talk about some of the definitely not Solarpunk elements of Pokemon.
Yeah. So this is why we're not coming out here point blank and saying Pokemon is Solarpunk.
Yes. Yeah, because there are some things about the world that kind of make you go, I don't think that quite fits with the Solarpunk aesthetic. So my understanding of the world is that it has free universal healthcare for Pokemons, but not necessarily for humans.
Unclear, unhelpful.
Yeah, so there's actually little evidence to support that there are free hospitals and medicine for humans in the Pokemon world. Well, it's very explicit that there is definitely that for Pokemon, because the narrative is more focused on Pokemon battles and care of Pokemon, but little attention is given to human health issues, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
So there's a potential problem with the socioeconomic structure there, where it's like, okay, we want to be, if you want to treat non-human nature and humans in harmony and equal, then you kind of have to all be receiving the same care and opportunities, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other side of this, I've also read that humans don't really need healthcare in the Pokemon world. And
They fixed health issues.
and money's not and money is not particularly hard to come by, but it's still, I don't know, questions.
Okay, touching on money briefly.
Yeah.
Pokeyen is a single unit of currency, which once again talks about like, you know, all the countries being connected, all the regions being connected.
Yeah.
It's so easy in Pokemon for a child to become a millionaire.
Yeah, so this is my understanding too. It's like easy to get money.
It's so easy. And again, I'm not the type of Pokemon player who like buys items to help my Pokemon. We just suffer. But I think it's really hard to actually spend all the money you earn in Pokemon, which kind of maybe is Solarpunk, that you don't really need a currency.
Yeah.
Like, is the currency more of like a Pebs from Monkey Robot,
exactly.
like token?
Yeah, if it's easy for you to become a millionaire, then what's the point in having the currency?
Yeah, and if there's nothing for you to spend it on, is it just like a nice fun extra?
Yeah. Is it just a cool thing to have? Is it just a flex? Like, I don't know. But let's also talk about the elephant in the room, about the Pokemon franchise and the very definitely not Solarpunk part of the franchise is the fact that there are pockets of Solarpunk in some of the games, the movies, the shows, and so on. But the franchise is a franchise, and as a whole, very capitalist, very consumerist. So this is a little bit hypocritical.
Yes. Particularly when their games always come out to promote the new Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like that technology, e-waste as a part of that.
Yeah. Here's another thing for you to buy.
Yeah, constantly be upgrading.
Yeah.
No clear recycling paths. Like, they could put in that effort.
Yeah. And it all comes back to that slogan and mentality of gotta catch them all, because it's like gotta collect all the things, gotta buy all the things.
That's really reframed it for me.
Yeah. Which is like upsetting.
Yeah.
But we've got to talk about it.
We do.
So the core concept of the franchise encourages the acquisition and purchasing of various products, including games, including trading cards, manga, the whole shebang.
Not the plushies.
So
not my plushies.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not your little beautiful.
We've got some friends in the studio today if you're listening.
You've gone this far and we haven't mentioned them yet.
There are Pokemon with us right now.
Yeah, there are.
Go to our YouTube to see.
Yes, true. So it is a bit like a big ad for merchandise.
Yeah.
All of the cutesy plush toys, like you just pointed out, the clothing, the accessories, and it does remain the highest grossing media franchise, which kind of proves the point.
They are making money off me. They are rinsing me and you. Not Solarpunk.
No, not Solarpunk. Other than this, though, at least at least the franchise is promoting the positive themes that we have talked about so
The
far.
bar is in hell. The bar is below the floor. Yeah. Walk the walk.
Yeah.
It's cringe not to.
Yes. Oh.
Okay. Okay. The time has come for me to talk about Pokemon, the franchise, saying, don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay.
I watched another really great video on YouTube today by Cecily. And the video was, what is meat made of in Pokemon games?
Oh, no.
And this video actually does reference Pokemon being Solarpunk. It focuses a lot on Pokemon as an almost perfect Solarpunk utopia.
Okay.
But some of the biggest friction points this creator has with that image and the reality of the Pokemon world is eating conscious creatures. You know, like eating your best friends in game as a canon part of the world.
Yeah.
So consuming pets and friends and companions. And the thinking of all this creator traces back, started as a mistake. So in the anime, some of the artists put in real fish in like a tank, not Pokemon fish, different.
Yeah.
And later directors said, think of that as just Pokemon you don't know the names of yet. It was a mistake, but like think of them as Pokemon. And that's fine until
you're eating them.
You're eating them. And characters in the anime are shown to eat meat, undisclosed, undescribed. They're also shown to eat like steamed Magikarp, which is, you know, an active friend of theirs. At the moment, in the latest Pokemon games, there's been an actual mechanic built around making curries, which includes the ingredients of sausages and burgers, and they do not tell you what's in them.
Great.
But if all animals in the Pokemon world are Pokemon, which are your best friends, what the heck?
Yeah, that is a little bit weird.
Yeah. And there's kind of this ask just to not think about it too deeply. But they're giving it to you. They could choose to make everybody vegan and we don't have this weird, uncomfortable space. But they've chosen to say like, that's cool to eat you, buddy. And then they back off and they say, don't think about it. And I think that's really un-Solarpunk. Like, again, that motivation isn't there.
Yeah.
It really crosses the uncanny valley for a lot of people and is really uncomfortable. And a lot of it also then has really un-Solarpunk implications, such as having the need for a lot of farming, particularly meat farming, which mirrors our world's less than utopian farms, which contribute a lot to climate change, deforestation and displacement. And largely colonial, which is an issue.
Yes, that is a problem too.
So it's interesting that like a 12-year-old meeting and beating God isn't as much of a friction point for some people as the weird question of like eating your best friend.
Yeah.
Going back to the colonialism aspects.
Oh no, you have more to say about that?
I have more to say about this, unfortunately. We've touched on money. We've kind of touched on sometimes the 12-year-olds are fighting mob bosses. Sometimes the mob bosses aren't mob bosses. They're big corporations who are lobbying the government for the benefit of their big corporations, not Solarpunk. In Legends of Arceus, which I really want to play, and after reading this, I want to play a little less, there is like a Diamond and Pearl clan, and they have their own cultures. And these people are really wary of you coming in as a foreigner and capturing their local wildlife, the Pokemon.
Right.
And then they're just fine with it eventually, apparently.
That doesn't sit right with me. That's
screaming, crying, throwing up, negative. There's also a lot of interesting elements of war that is kind of referenced and never fully explained. And Pokemon kind of sometimes references things like America in early games and then pretends it's never heard of America in later games. So there is some lack of continuity, but I think the don't worry about it is actually really unnerving. Yeah. And I think a lot of those aspects in particular are things that don't go with the Solarpunk ethos that seems to have gone into the creation of Solarpunk. And I think that's partly what makes it not utopic, not Solarpunk-esque. But it does keep it teetering on the edge of Solarpunk.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like, oh, you're almost there. Almost there. There's just a few things that are not quite right.
Yeah, and then you just want to be like, why have you done this? You had a good thing going.
Yeah.
But it is important to be critical of your media.
Yeah.
And it's also important to understand the implications of the media outside of the media.
Yes.
So scientists write about Pokemon a lot, as I've discovered.
Yeah.
Not just scientists, many academics. It's very popular. There's like a medical thing called a Pokemon. There's like space astronomy.
Okay. Yep.
Astrological. No. There's a space thing where they've named...
Astronomical? No.
No, wrong word.
I don't know.
Astrophysics.
Yes.
That's the word I was thinking
Definitely not astrology.
I was trying not to say it, but I couldn't think of the word. Okay, there's this astrophysics kind of like thing that they've described, and it's basically an acronym that spells out Pokemon. So if you search Pokemon, a lot of things that come up. The most interesting things for me is work from environmentalists, conservationists, biologists. In an academic article / letter published to the journal Science, these academics talk about why conservationists should heed Pokemon. That's the name of the work. And they talk about how always present in Pokemon is the ability for nature to collapse into capital. So for wildness and acquisition and capital into culture.
Yeah.
Which is a really concerning thing that academics have pointed out, that this world is teetering on the edge of the natural collapsing into capital, where we presume it came from. And basically she's saying like conservationists, when you're using Pokemon as a case study, like be aware of this, because this is how kids a lot of the time are learning about ecological and biological concepts.
That's fascinating that scientists are outright saying that too. Like it's on their radar, which is fascinating too.
And another peer-reviewed article on the Pokemon franchise and the environment say that ability for nature to collapse into capital is particularly evident in Pokemon merchandise. The Pocket Monsters versions of Monopoly, where Pokemon are bought and sold like properties. The cards, which are ranked by price according to scarcity and quite literally collapse into capital when sold in the playground or online. And it also says the films always pull back before this collapse, restoring a sense of harmony between human and Pokemon and restoring balance in the world. So it's saying like it's always on that edge, and the media that we can control, such as Monopoly, goes way harder into it than the movies do, which always pull back from that brink, but not far enough that it, the brink isn't there. And that article then goes on to say, through the exploits of its young protagonist Ash, Pokemon provides a virtual model for the environment that systematically celebrates, critiques, and comments upon environmentalism, biodiversity, materialism, and consumer culture. It promotes, critiques, comments on all of the above all the time.
Yeah, so even if it's like doing some of it in like, don't think that's Solarpunk. At least they're trying to explore really important themes. And I think that's a really good lead-in to the final section about the future of Solarpunk in Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, okay, really cool, important discussion we've had. Pokemon is definitely not explicitly or entirely Solarpunk.
Absolutely.
Has a bit of a way to go for reasons we've discussed. But many of its aesthetics, themes, values do align with Solarpunk ideas or are like moving in that direction. It's not 100% utopian, like we've talked about, but it's also very far from a dystopia.
Yeah.
And provides glimpses of what a Solarpunk world could look like. So it'd be really cool to see a Pokemon game or a show or whatever that fleshes out these values a little more to go even more Solarpunk.
Yeah, and I think there's huge potential in the plot.
Totally.
So Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, some of the earlier games, had a huge environmental and political storyline that actually mirrored real-world politics to try and explain it with some of its complexity to young people who weren't there at the time that was happening. So I think there's potential. They've already done that storyline. That was one of the first ones. I think there's really potential to see the current Pokemon world make a substantial transition towards a Solarpunk world, which could be in the next regional game. Like, they're always trying to give their regions something else. This current one is kind of like, it's Paris, but not. Like, what if it was Solarpunk?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. There also historically was a villain team, Team Plasma, and they questioned and challenged the way that things were run in the Pokemon world in Generation 5. They were, however, trying to replace the current world with a dictatorship, so we're happy they didn't win. But I think there's also potential there where we could see a new storyline where maybe there is a challenge to the way things are run in the Pokemon world, and maybe that leads to a more fruitful discussion or to a more Solarpunk Pokeworld.
Yeah.
So I can totally see Pokemon plot. I feel like there are some elements there, as we've spoken about, leading to a more Solarpunk future in their upcoming media.
Yeah.
On the flip side, that's the plot. That's the Pokemon Company.
Yeah.
How players interact with Pokemon is really important too.
Yes.
And Pokemon could become more Solarpunk simply just through the way we play it. Recently, I've seen a few people doing what they call the Solarpunk challenge when playing Pokemon. So essentially, it's a themed challenge run, not like a Nuzlocke, which is kind of like a series of rules that you can put on how you play the game to make it more challenging.
Yeah.
But it's basically where you start from the start, and instead of just playing the game as normal, you only catch and use Pokemon that fit within the theme of Solarpunk, which is classified as you can only use grass, electric, and or steel type Pokemon.
Cool.
So Crapmang is a Pokemon player who's done that a few times.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think it's fully holistic of Solarpunk, but
no,
it's interesting that players are trying to put that lens to it. There is a really famous story from a person on Reddit of a player reading that the Pokemon Lapras was canonically endangered. So the player, when they were playing the Pokemon game, was breeding them and releasing them into the wild. Because, you know, they were really touched by wanting to help that critically endangered Pokemon. And that's like so sweet. And I think that reflects such like genuine kindness from a lot of players. And I think there are lots more ways like that people probably have interacted with and we haven't heard about, but this is like one particularly famous case. And finally, there's a lot of crowdsourcing currently in between players and Pokemon, such as trading your Pokemon in game, but also decentralized distribution of game copies, both physically sharing your copy or maybe digitally sharing a copy you might have. And who knows where this could bring us in the future. There's a lot of community modifications who made, crowdsourced Pokemon games or fan-made Pokemon games. And I can see that community is so inherently entwined with Pokemon that I don't think that's going away. So I'm really interested to see like how that continues to evolve in the future too from a player perspective.
Yeah, totally. Those are all really cool stories.
Right?
Actually, yeah. And speaking of stories,
oh my God, tell me a story.
What I wanted to sort of end on in this section is how Pokemon ultimately does begin to explore how you can write a captivating Solarpunk story without conflict from the setting itself.
Yes.
This is where my lengthy quote comes in.
Saved it for the end.
Yes. It's a quote from a blogger on this like huge online discussion about whether Pokemon is Solarpunk or not. The blogger's name was Her Beloved Ghast. Cool name too.
Excellent name.
And this is what they said, quote, "One of the questions I've always had about Solarpunk that I could never find an adequate answer for is, how do you write a story within Solarpunk if there's no source of conflict derived from the setting itself? Like, Solarpunk isn't like Cyberpunk, Steampunk, and so forth, wherein conflict tends to arise from the very elements that also form the definition of those genres. Solarpunk, by definition, is meant to be a society that works. You don't have the technology versus humanity or government versus citizen of cyberpunk, or the inherent social inequality or general mad science weirdness of steampunk. I love that.
That's great.
But then I realized, wait, Pokemon answers this question. How? Because what's the one thing that could threaten the balance of all the things mentioned above? A mother flippin' private organization. I love this person's voice. Just a sec.
Their authorial voice is like really strong and cool.
Yes. You know, the sort that works to either abuse nature or general science for the benefit of or according to the vision of a singular person. The sort whose very actions threaten the natural world for the sake of profit and or power. And this is in bold, like the ones that serve as the antagonists of literally every main series Pokemon game. So hells yeah, Pokemon is a solarpunk. It's not even just the world either, it's the whole flippin' story.
Wow, that is a really great perspective, I think, to end on.
Yeah.
And really, again, like captures kind of like the essence of what we're talking about. Like,
yes.
It's very, very central to Pokemon.
Yeah.
That lack of a conflict inherently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so relaxing and so peaceful and so idyllic.
I know. And something else I wanted to add to that idea is that solarpunk stories and themes about friendship, like we see in Pokemon, are powerful and enjoyable too. You don't need violence or conflict to dominate in order to have a good story or a good game.
Or romance, may I add.
Or romance. And I will die on this hill.
Yes.
I've done it before. I will again.
You look great for someone who's died on hills recently.
And I just wanted to end on some examples where this has in fact worked. So take a cozy movie like My Neighbor Totoro, which is about two sisters and their adventures with forest spirits. Or the Winnie the Pooh series, which is all about friendship, or more independent movies like Amélie, a French movie about a young French waitress who decides to give back and change the lives of strangers around her, or something like Patterson, which is about a bus driver and who's also a poet exploring daily routines and just the beauty found in everyday life. So more of this, please, in Pokemon. Yes. I think it would do really well too.
Oh, yeah. I just have no more words to say. That's really just the perfect conclusion.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on this journey into Pokemon and Solarpunk with us. It's been such a great discussion. I'm sure a lot of you are more experienced than we are with Pokemon, so we'd love to hear your thoughts. And we'll ask you some questions in a bit.
Yeah.
But it's now time for one of our favorite segments.
The good news bit. We have more good news, everybody. More good things, more happy, positive things to say.
I love this world we live in.
So, big medical news. Huntington's disease has been successfully treated for the first time. So Huntington's, for those who don't know, is one of the most devastating diseases. It runs through families and unfortunately kills brain cells over time, which affects a person's movements, thinking ability, and mental health. And this typically starts in someone's 30s or 40s, so quite young, and resembles a combination of dementia, Parkinson's, and motor neuron disease. And it's normally fatal within a couple decades, so people pass away quite young.
That's so brutal.
It is. It's very sad.
So it's really great to hear about some good news in this, in this
So
area.
the new treatment is a type of gene therapy that's given during brain surgery and has shown so far to slow down the disease by 75%.
That's
in
huge.
patients, which is massive in science and medicine. And this also opens the possibility that earlier treatment, so treatment for young people who are known to have the gene, could prevent symptoms from ever emerging.
Oh, that would be so good.
And one of the patients was actually medically retired because of the disease, but has now returned to work because of the treatment, and still going strong. It is early days, but still going strong. And others in the trial are still walking, despite being expected to need a wheelchair by this stage. So that's really cool as well. Should be noted, the treatment is likely to be on the expensive end at the moment, but this is moment of real hope and potential to revolutionize treatment for this disease and like for medicine in general.
And I'm just going to say, maybe Pokemon did say it best. Science is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. The impact that can have in people's quality of life is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow. That's put a big old smile on my face.
Yeah, it's great. What's your good news, Ella? Let's keep it coming.
Let's keep it coming. I'm going to transport you to a magical island in Australia called Tasmania.
Oh, yes.
We're doing a local story, and we're talking about this good news story is all about the backyard biobanking project.
Oh, okay.
By a young scientist called Harry Lush.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's been described by the ABC as the Tasmanian insurance against extinction. So this backyard biobanking project includes 10 different species of alpine plants who are normally really resilient. Mm-hmm. They can live for hundreds of years in Tasmania. They're quite a unique form of nature, and they've lived through so many things, but they can't survive bushfires, which is a really real extinction threat to these 10 plus species. Mm-hmm. And the problem with these two is that as seedlings, they can survive and, reproduce in people's backyards. But as seeds, these species won't last more than a couple years a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So a seed bank isn't a solution. What is a solution, like I just said before, is seedlings. So basically, this young scientist, Harry Lush, is coordinating the project from his backyard. So cool, literally backyard science. And he's raising hundreds of cuttings of these alpine plants.
Wow. And
these cuttings have been donated by local producers. And then he's giving these hundreds of seedlings away for free to people in the Tasmanian community. Mm-hmm. In return for these new, lush, free, native plants, participants are encouraged to keep them alive and enjoy them in any way, whether that's planting them directly into the backyard, putting them in a pot, raising them as bonsai. Mm-hmm. And in return, they're just asked for their contact details so that if there's a major bushfire in Tasmania, new cuttings and seeds from everyone's backyards can be used to restore the forest in a really quick way and to make sure that those species have a better chance of survival.
Yeah.
So Mr. Lush is quoted as saying, "What this allows us to do is actually just have living plants ready to go, ready to jump into action. In the case of the unthinkable, where large tracts of our alpine and other fire-sensitive ecosystems are lost, we can have access to materials such as seed and cuttings to fast-track restoration efforts." Mm-hmm. And after the first 2 information sessions, about 200 people have brought home seedlings to their backyards for this project.
Wow.
Mr. Lush also said, a lot of people come to Tasmania and stay because when they've gone up into the mountains, they look around them and see flora that's completely different, completely alien. And I just love how this transcends citizen science, community. Mm-hmm. It's just such a beautiful project and one that is very localized to that region. And I think that's really important when we're talking about particularly like decolonial aspects of Solarpunk.
Totally.
We're not transporting these up to different parts of the world that might have a similar environment. It's actually saying, let's do that here and keep them native and keep them alive. Mm-hmm. And there are so many beautiful elements to this story. I'm really pleased to see that it made it onto the news, and thinking about it just makes my day so much better.
Yeah, that's great that it made it into mainstream news. It's so nice to hear local good stories too. That's something that I really enjoy because it's not talked about as much on the news, but I really enjoy when it is like there's a local story that appears and it's like really wholesome and community focused, because it's so important for us to be hearing those stories.
And to hear how close they are to you. Good things happen every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. You're so right. And on that note, I think we should leave our listeners with some questions.
Yes.
So listeners, do you think Pokemon is Solarpunk?
It's a big question. We've spent over an hour trying to answer it here, but we want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. Another question that I've been thinking about, and I don't know where I lie yet, but I want to know, Where in the balance do you think Pokemon is between an ultimately flawed world and a world that's better than our own?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a spectrum, but which side is it closer to you? Where does it land for you? Let us know.
Yeah. On our socials.
Oh, yeah. Let us know on our socials or on our email.
Yeah. At @sci_burst or via our Gmail, like Ella said. And as always, everyone, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
And we'll see you next time.
Woo! It was a long episode.
I know. I was worried it was going to be short.